I've hauled this Amarillo lane so many times I could drive it in my sleep. US 287 at 3 in the morning feels like another planet. Just asphalt, darkness, fence lines fading into the void, the silhouette of a windmill watching you pass, and not much else. That night in March 2018 was just another night behind the wheel. Coffee in the thermos, cruise set just under 65. Nothing out of place. The first odd thing was how empty it all felt. So empty, I started counting reflectors just to fight the monotony. And then I saw her. She was on the shoulder waving both arms, stepping into the edge of my lane, hair plastered to her face from the wind. Even through the glare of my own headlights, I could see her mouth moving. I eased off the throttle and thumbed the CB mic. Any DPS on 287 near mile 104? Female pedestrian flagging traffic. Static. Nothing. As I rolled closer, she bolted to the passenger side of my rig, slapping the door and shouting something I couldn't hear over the hiss of my brakes. She was young, maybe late 20s, no coat, no bag. Her fists banged against the step rail. I cracked the window an inch. Please, he's coming back. He's going to get me again. Let me in, please. I didn't think. I threw the lock and pulled the door handle. She scrambled up the steps and into the seat like she'd been chased for miles. She was trembling hard, staring out the windshield instead of at me. I reached for the CB again, but caught a movement in the mirror. A pickup. Headlights off, grille glinting just enough to make it visible. It was closing fast. She saw it too and started screaming, clutching the dash. Go, go, don't let him block us. I jammed the truck into gear and rolled. The trailer creaked, air brakes releasing in a rush. The pickup kept coming, then swung wide and cut in front of us with its lights still off. Stay down, I barked, gripping the wheel. I flashed my hazards once and leaned on the air horn. The pickup drifted across my lane like it wanted me to brake. I didn't. I let the rig build speed on the downgrade. Engine howling, trailer rattling. The pickup swerved again, but I held my line. At the last second, it veered off to the shoulder, then fell back. We didn't speak for a full minute, just watched the mirrors. Finally, the headlights snapped on and the truck dropped out of view, like it had decided to wait for someone else. I took the next lit exit at speed, tires barking as we hit the ramp. Pulled into a 24-hour station, nose out, high beams on. Grabbed my phone, 2 bars now, and called 911. US 287 near mile 10 something, I told the dispatcher. Female pedestrian flagged me down saying someone was after her. Pickup tried to cut us off. It's sitting out there somewhere. She said units were far, but on the way. Stay in your vehicle. If he approaches, do not engage. The woman was still shaking. She kept looking nervously at the frontage road, flinching every pair of headlights that passed. I handed her my water bottle, and after a few sips, words tumbled out. He picked me up outside Amarillo, said he'd give me a ride to Oklahoma City. But when I asked to be dropped off at a station, he locked the doors. She stopped, staring out the windshield like she couldn't finish. I jumped out when he slowed on the shoulder. Thought I'd lost him, but he turned around. I told her we were safe now, that police were on the way, but she kept clutching the dash like she was ready to spring again. I kept the truck idling, nose out, headlights on high beams. 15 minutes later, red and blues finally flickered across the lot. A county cruiser pulled in, followed by another. I stepped down slow, hands visible, told them what happened. They took her statement first. One deputy crouched by the passenger step with a notebook ready. She repeated the same story. Hitchhiked. Man wouldn't let her out. Chased her when she ran. Another unit cruised the frontage road. The pickup was gone. Could have peeled off on a ranch cut, one officer said. Miles of dirt roads out here. Once they're dark, they vanish. They offered to take her to a shelter in Amarillo. She agreed quickly, desperate to get inside their car. Before she left, she looked at me once, almost guilty, and whispered, "Thank you for stopping." I gave a nod, not sure what to say. When the lot was quiet again, I did a walk around with my flashlight. Trailer straps intact, tires fine. Just that smear of dust on the grab handle where she'd clawed her way up. I didn't park in Amarillo that night. I drove 2 more hours and pulled into a crowded truck plaza. Curtains cracked an inch, keys in my hand, lights close by. Habit I haven't broken since. A week later, a trooper called. "We filed it," he said. "No pickup matched, no arrests." That was it. Quiet night, he called it. But I still hear her voice when I think of that stretch of highway. The way she said, "He's gonna get me again." And every time I see someone on the shoulder now, man, woman, doesn't matter, I call first, keep rolling, and never ever stop in the dark. They don't call Highway 50 the loneliest road in America as a joke. Nevada's stretch feels like it runs across the bones of the earth. 2 lanes pinned to emptiness, sagebrush stretching forever, mountains flat against the horizon. I was running it in July 2016, Ely to Fallon. Standard overnight haul, dry goods, light load, nothing exciting. My ELD was tight, but I figured I'd catnap at the next turnout. The night had that strange desert quiet. The moon was bright enough to turn the sage into black and white shadows, mesas like cardboard cutouts in the distance. Radio dead quiet. I remember thinking, good night for an easy run. And that's when I noticed the shape up ahead. From a mile out, it looked like a block across my lane. Dark, wrong. As I closed in, it resolved into a sedan parked sideways. No flashers, no hood up. Driver's door just barely cracked. I eased off the throttle, touched the Jake, then killed it. No need to announce myself, more than 40 tons already did. I feathered the brakes and swept the roadside with my eyes. Something moved in the sage. Low, quick, like heads ducking. Then another shape, opposite side. That was the moment my blood went cold. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a trap. Truckers have an unspoken list of rules. One is, don't put yourself nose to nose with a problem someone else arranged, not on an empty highway with no cell bars and no witnesses. You don't step out unless you know what you're stepping into. I had seconds to decide. Shoulder, too steep. Stop and back, recipe for jackknifing into a ditch. Only move left, go through. I dropped a gear, centered up, and laid on the air horn. A long, screaming blast. My bumper met the side of the sedan square. The car jerked, tires screaming as it slid sideways. Gravel pinged my undercarriage. Out of the sage, 2 figures shot out, scattering back instead of forward. That told me what I needed. They weren't desperate, just opportunistic. The sedan rolled just enough to open me a sliver. Trailer shimmied but held. I kept my hands firm, didn't swerve, I just kept going forward. When the rear trailer cleared, I finally breathed. Road stretched open again, desert silent as if nothing had happened. I checked the mirror. Sedan sat crooked in the dark. No lights came on. Nothing followed. I kept it at 55, eyes glued to every turnout like they were open mouths waiting to swallow me. The nap I'd planned was gone. I drove on past legal hours until the horizon turned blue. The truck stop outside Fallon looked like heaven. Fluorescents buzzing, other rigs lined up like guardians. I parked nose out, killed the engine, and my hands just stayed clamped to the wheel. When I finally did my walk around, found a scrape of paint, not mine, streaked low across the bumper. Inside, I asked for a landline and called Highway Patrol. Gave them the mile marker and facts. Sedan sideways across lane. Made contact. Saw individuals in brush. Trooper said I wasn't the first to report staged blocks out there. Could be thieves. Could be worse, he said. Just a report logged and another warning for the file. I tried to sleep, but every sound in the lot felt like a footstep. When I finally rolled on, the desert looked normal again. That's the part that gets you, how quickly it goes back to looking empty, innocent, harmless. Even now, when I think back, I don't picture the car as much as the movement in the sage. Human silhouettes ducking down like coyotes hiding from headlights. That's what still crawls under my skin. These days, I don't nap on Highway 50. I stick to lit truck stops, even if it means pushing extra miles. If I see a car sideways across a road again, I already know my plan. Horn and geometry. Nothing else. Because that night, I learned something simple and ugly. Some people count on you being better than they are. They expect you to stop. And out there in the dark, being decent is the door they're trying to pry open. I was in my second year of trucking, 25 at the time, and still learning which instincts I could trust. Tulsa, August 2019, I had timed my fuel stop carefully, slipping into that quiet window between the dinner rush and the 2 a.m. bar crowd. Normally, that's when stations are calmest. Swipe card, set nozzle, glove up, restroom, grab an energy drink, back out. Same order every time. Because the less you think, the quicker you notice when something isn't right. That night, I parked by the pumps, close enough to the door to cut down my walk. A couple of rigs were parked across the lot, engines droning like background music. I swiped my card, clipped the nozzle, and leaned against the side of my truck, stretching my back. Then I heard a whisper so faint I thought at first it was the hiss of the pumps. "Don't leave me." I turned. A girl was standing at the edge of the pump island. 17 maybe, no coat, no bag, just shorts and a t-shirt. Shoes without socks. Her hair was tied back carelessly like she had left in a rush. She didn't stumble or slur like someone drunk. She looked clear-eyed, but terrified. "You okay?" I asked. She looked toward a silver sedan parked near the store. 2 men leaned against it. They weren't looking at her. They were staring at me. The girl's shoulders hunched as if she was trying to shrink. "Don't leave me," she whispered again. "Come inside with me," I said quickly. "We'll talk to the clerk." She hesitated. Her feet shifted like she wanted to move, but was waiting for permission. The men by the sedan stayed motionless, and that was what made my stomach tighten. They didn't call her back, didn't scold her for talking to me. They just watched, like I was the variable they were measuring. I stepped sideways, keeping my eyes on them, and freed the nozzle. The pump beeped, but I left it running. "Together," I said to her again, firmer this time. She followed me inside. The clerk looked up from his counter. "Call the police," I said, whispering. His eyes darted to the girl, then back to me. Without hesitation, he reached for the phone beneath the counter. "What's the emergency?" he asked. "Possible abduction," I said. 2 men outside, silver sedan. He repeated the words into the receiver, then added, "Need a unit now." I turned to make sure the girl was with me, but she wasn't. "Miss?" I called as I checked the aisles. No bathroom door swinging, no freezer open. She was just gone. The clerk swore under his breath, still on the line with dispatch. She came in with a trucker, now she's gone. 2 males outside by a sedan, no plate visible. She had vanished as suddenly as she appeared. The men outside hadn't moved toward the store. They leaned against the sedan, still watching. Not the girl, me. "Don't go out there," the clerk said quickly. "Wait for the cops. They're close." We stood side by side using the store windows as mirrors, careful not to press too close. 90 seconds crawled by. Then, red and blue lights swept across the lot. The sedan rolled away like nothing had happened. The officers listened to my account, then replayed the security footage. The girl's figure appeared on screen, small and blurred. The men were just shadows by the sedan. No plate could be read. No missing person report matched her description. "You did the right thing," the older officer told me. "Bring people inside, keep them in camera view, involve staff. Don't isolate." I nodded, but my mind was stuck on her whisper. "Don't leave me." I moved my rig closer to other drivers. I didn't leave right away. I sat with the engine idling, replaying every detail. Should I have grabbed her arm? Should I have dragged her further inside? Or was that exactly what those men wanted, to make me step out into the lot alone? I kept checking news sites afterward, waiting to see if a missing girl was reported. Nothing ever came up. Maybe she was bait, maybe she was genuinely begging for help. Maybe she was both. I'll never know. Since that night, I radio for another trucker when I stop after midnight. I ask clerks to watch me go in and out. Simple things, but they matter. Because the scariest part isn't always what does happen. Sometimes it's what almost does, or what you never get answers for. That night in Tulsa taught me that. I've been on the road most of my life. I started trucking in my 20s, when I was still full of that restless energy and thought driving across the country sounded more like an adventure than a job. By the time of this story, I was 44, a widower, and trucking wasn't an adventure anymore. It was survival. The kind of survival where you get your loads, you keep your wheels moving, and you learn to live with the silence of your own cab. This happened in May of 2014, on a route I'd taken more times than I could count, moving freight across Arizona. I just finished a long haul eastbound and was dead tired. The kind of tired where even strong coffee feels like water. Near Flagstaff, there's this rest area I'd pulled into a few times before. Nothing special, 2 bathrooms that smelled of bleach and old urine, a couple vending machines with stale chips and sodas, and a parking lot half lit by buzzing lamps that always seemed to flicker out when you needed them most. Still, it was a place to stop, set the brakes, and catch a few hours in the sleeper. That night, it was nearly empty. Just me and one old SUV parked crooked at the far end. That was exactly how I liked it. Empty meant quiet. Quiet meant maybe a chance at real sleep. I parked nose out, like I always did, because if something felt wrong, I wanted nothing between me and the ramp except the turn of a key. I set my alarm for 3 hours, drew the sleeper curtains, and stretched out on the bunk. I thought I'd be out cold in minutes, but sleep doesn't always come easy when you've been alone too long. I stared up at the ceiling of the cab for a while, listening to the distant whoosh of cars on the interstate. Every so often, a semi roared past, and the ground vibrated just enough to remind me I wasn't totally alone. I remember thinking about my wife then. She'd been gone almost 5 years by that point. But nights like this, quiet, tired, my guard down, I felt her absence more than ever. She used to call me just before bed, ask if I'd eaten. I would have given anything for that kind of check-in that night. At some point, though, I drifted off. It couldn't have been more than a couple hours later when I woke to the sound of tires on gravel. You learn to notice little noises when you live on the road. A car door shutting 2 spots away can wake you faster than an alarm. This one was different. The engine was low, almost humming, and I realized it had pulled in without headlights. That was enough to pull me fully awake. Through the curtain, I saw a van. It had slid into the space right next to me. Now, anyone who drives a truck knows there's unwritten etiquette in rest areas. You don't crowd another driver when the place is empty. You just don't. That's what raised the first red flag. There had to be a dozen other spots, but this van parked tight against my passenger side, almost too close. That wasn't coincidence. I pulled my curtain back an inch and looked. The side door of the van was lined up with my steps, the ones right below my cab door. No movement yet, no noise. Just a dark rectangle with no plates I could see. Something about it prickled the back of my mind. I told myself, maybe it was someone catching sleep like me. Still, I slid my boots on, just in case, and rested my hand near the air horn lanyard above my seat. It was around 2:40 a.m. when I heard a faint metallic tap, like something brushed my steps. Then whispers, two voices, low, trying not to carry. I leaned forward just enough to peer out. Then I saw them, two shapes crouched near the grab handle. They were right there, inches from my cab, as if waiting for me to come down. I can't describe the kind of fear that washed over me in that moment. Not panic, not the kind that makes you run. It was cold, deliberate fear, the kind that narrows your vision and makes every thought laser sharp. They weren't here by accident. They weren't travelers. They were hunting. Without thinking too much, I slammed the air horn. The blast shook the whole cab, rattled my mirrors, and echoed across the lot like a shotgun. I expected them to scatter. Anyone would have. But they didn't. They flinched, sure, but then they moved toward me, toward my driver's side window. One of them cupped his hands around his mouth and started yelling, "Get out of the truck!" The other one pounded the side of my door hard enough that the whole cab vibrated. Whatever they wanted, it wasn't help. I could see their faces now. Intent was all I needed to see, and their intent was clear. I didn't wait another second. I fired the ignition. My foot hit the clutch, hand on the stick, and I swung the wheel hard. The truck lurched forward, and I gunned it toward the ramp. My trailer rattled, load groaning against the straps, but I didn't care. I just needed distance. The van reversed fast, but I was already halfway to the exit. I hit the horn again, long and punishing, and kept my eyes locked on the road. Every muscle in my body was wound tight, waiting for a gunshot or the slam of metal into my rear. But it never came. By the time I hit the merge, my rig was thundering at 60, and the rest area lights were fading in the mirror. I didn't stop. Couldn't. I called 911 on Bluetooth as I merged, voice shaking even though I tried to keep it level. The dispatcher listened, asked for my location, and told me to keep moving until I reached a well-lit truck stop. There wasn't a unit nearby, she said. Just keep going. Easy for her to say. My hands were locked on the wheel, eyes flicking between the mirrors and the black stretch of highway ahead. Every pair of headlights in the distance made my stomach clench. I couldn't shake the image of those two crouched figures at my step. I drove 70 miles before I finally pulled into a busy truck plaza. Lights bright as daylight and cameras on every pump. Only then did I kill the engine and sit back, shaking so hard I couldn't unclench my jaw. The police showed up about 40 minutes later. They told me I did the right thing by leaving fast and loud. That didn't make me feel better. It just made me wonder how many other drivers had stopped, how many hadn't been so lucky. After that night, I changed the way I run. I don't sleep in isolated rest areas anymore. Not if I can help it. Only 24-hour truck plazas with cameras, attendants, and other rigs parked close by. Sometimes I even nap with the engine idling, just to feel like I can move at a second's notice. I never saw their eyes clearly, but I'll never forget the way they looked at me. Like I was already theirs if I'd just opened that door. That's the thing about trucking people don't get. The cab feels like a fortress when you're inside it, but it's not. All it takes is one wrong decision, one moment of trust, and that fortress becomes a trap. I learned that the hard way in a near-empty rest area outside Flagstaff, and I don't think I'll ever sleep easy on the road again. I've been behind the wheel most of my adult life. 30 years in, I can tell you that interstate rest areas past midnight all share the same personality. Not peaceful, not lively, just hollow. If you're lucky, the noise stays just bugs, bulbs, and wind. If you're unlucky, you hear something else. This was I-64, outside Louisville, June 2015. I was tired, already regretting the gas station burrito sitting in my gut. I'd lost the fight with my eyelids 5 exits back, so I pulled into the rest stop. The plan was simple. 45 minutes, alarm set, then roll again. Just enough to straighten my logbook line and keep from ending up in the median. The place wasn't empty, but close. A state plow truck sat under the far light, a crooked sedan by the vending machines, a family-style minivan that had seen better years. Restrooms lit, info center dark. I picked my spot, shut down the rig, and did my ritual scan. Mirrors, angles, blind corners, footpaths. Old habits. Nobody moving, just bugs orbiting poles. I half-closed my privacy curtain, leaving a gap to watch the entrance. Stretched on the bunk, the highway's whoosh filtered through. Hiss of tires, thumps on dotted seams. I was out in under a minute. The alarm ripped me back after 40 minutes. My mouth felt like cotton. I was reaching for the ignition when something clicked in my head. Sound. Faint but human. A muffled strain. I sat still. A second noise followed, the kind of squeak a dome light switch makes, though I couldn't see it. Then came the muffled sound again, shorter this time, like a word stuffed into cloth. Through the curtain gap, I saw the sedan 2 spots down. Its interior light blinked once and went dark. The blink you get from a door opened, then shut quick. Nothing else moved. My first instinct, hit the air horn. Announce myself. Second instinct, dial 911 and let a trooper sort it. Third, step down and knock on the window like the decent man my old man raised. Instead, I hesitated. I told myself it could be an argument. It could be nothing. But the sound came again. Higher now. Panicked, unmistakably human. My hand went for the horn cord, then froze. I wanted more certainty before I acted. I decided on a plan. Start the engine, swing the rig across the lot, block the sedan from leaving, then hammer the horn. No heroics, just light and steel. But before I moved, the sedan's taillights flared red, then cut. The car straightened, glided forward without headlights, hugging shadow until the last second. Then the beam snapped on, and it was gone. Up the ramp, swallowed by the interstate. I pulled out and followed at a distance. Not to catch them. I knew I couldn't. Just to move, because sitting in that silence felt worse. But there were 2 exits, and by the time I picked one, every car was just anonymous taillights. I stopped at a 24-hour truck stop, bathed in harsh light. Called 911, told the dispatcher exactly what I'd seen. Car, interior light, muffled screams. She asked for make, model, plate. I had little to give. She said they'd send a unit. Asked if I wanted a callback. I said yes, though I dreaded the ring. Hours later, a young officer called back. They'd checked the rest stop, the bathrooms, shoulders for 10 miles. Nothing unusual. No car matched my description. No bodies, no arrests. He gave me a case number, the bureaucratic version of a shrug. For weeks, I kept asking myself, was that crybait or a victim? Did I escape a trap or leave someone behind? If you want the neat answer, I don't have it. There was no news article, no missing person flyer, no plate number to circle in a notebook. Just a crooked car, a flicker of light, a smothered sound, and my own hesitation. That's what stuck. Not what I did, but what I didn't. People ask if I'm haunted. Haunted means something chases you. This doesn't. It just sits, like a mile marker I pass in my head every so often. A reminder of how thin the line is between doing nothing and doing something, and how fast it disappears when the moment's gone. The quiet of rest areas after midnight isn't peace. It's a question. That night I answered too late. I've been trying to answer earlier ever since. If you also thought the scariest part wasn't the truck stop, but realizing no one was coming to help, you're starting to get it. Smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the next scare, and tell me, would you have stopped for that woman on the shoulder? Okay, trucker nightmares are bad enough, but at least you've got wheels to escape. Imagine being locked inside 4 walls with nowhere to run. Click now to watch 4 disturbing Airbnb horror stories, because sometimes the real danger is waiting inside the place you paid to sleep. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.